the world today, when you think of supermodels, there's so many that come to mind. There's Carly Kloss, there's Candace Swainpool, there's Cara Delevingne, and they're all great. But according to GeoClan, the first supermodel ever was Gia Maria Carangi. Now, Gia Maria Carangi, better known just as Gia, was most memorable because of her young age that she was discovered, because of the unique beauties that she brought to the modeling world, and because of her self-destruction that led to her death at age 26. So, Gia was born in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania in the year 1960. From the beginning of her life, she was set up for self-destruction. When she was 5, she was sexually assaulted. When she was 11, her mom walked out on the family after being abused by her father, which was really rough for Gia because her mother was just like the world to her, and so seeing her walk out in her life gave her a feeling of abandonment. In school, she hung out with the Bowie clan, which was after David Bowie, and they were very gender fluid, is what they like to call themselves, and they went to gay bars and clubs when they were only 15 years old. So many people blame this as her broken home life as a reason for her surrender to drugs later in her life. When she was 17, Gia was discovered by Wilhelmina Models, and she moved to New York City and almost immediately was on the cover of Vogue and Cosmopolitan, and in fact, in a 3-year span between 1979 and 1982, she was on 5 Vogue covers and 2 Cosmopolitan covers, which was astounding for a 19-year-old at the time. This sudden burst into the limelight of the modeling world was also to blame for her sudden downward spiral into drugs, because it was kind of a coping method, as she didn't know how to handle the sudden attention that she was receiving. When she was on this highway to success, Gia was faced with 2 heartbreaking losses in her life. Wilhelmina Cooper, the woman who discovered her, and from Wilhelmina Agents, the modeling agency, died of cancer in 1980. And shortly after that, Chris von Wangenheim, who was a Vogue photographer, died in a car accident. And he was important to her because he was one of the first people who took her in as a photographer, which was a really big deal. And after both of these deaths, Gia decided to take some time off from modeling, as she was already spiraling out of control, and her mother realized that. So she then went back to Philadelphia, and she decided to live with her mom and went on a 21-day detox that did not work, and shortly thereafter she returned to her heroin usage. To give you an idea of how much she was using, she was the most famous supermodel in the late 70s, and yet she was broke after all of her success because of how much heroin she was using. And this was found on International UK Online. After numerous attempts to get clean and make a comeback in the modeling world, it was obvious that she had no luck, because she was once a young, vibrant supermodel with a future ahead of her, and she was now seen just as a problematic hassle to the fashion designers and photographers of the world. And so she decided to start working other jobs, such as working in a clothing department and working in a nursing home, and she ended up quitting all those jobs just because she didn't like it. And this was about the age of 25. In early 1986, Gia was very sick, and she went to the doctor, and she was diagnosed with pneumonia. And as she was in the hospital for this, the doctors ran tests and realized that she was HIV positive, and it had actually degraded into AIDS. And so she spent the next 6 or so months in the hospital fighting pneumonia as well as HIV, and she ended up dying in November 18th of that same year, 1986, at the young age of 26 years old. Her mother spent every day with her and up until her death, and described her appearance as having sores all over her face, having a loss of hair, her skin was all discolored, and she appeared to look dead before she was dead. And that was sourced from the Gia film from 1988. And after Gia's death was Cindy Crawford, who was a very well-known model, actually came into the spotlight thanks to Gia because they both had the dark Italian features. Although only shining approximately 5 years as an international model and icon, Gia made her place in history through her unique looks, as many models before her had the blonde hair with the blue eyes, and that changed when Gia came into fame because she had dark Italian looks. That was completely new to the whole modeling scene, and she probably would have succeeded and gone into her 30s as a model, but due to her hard past and the heartbreak she faced in life, she turned to drugs to cope with her hardships, and it ended up being her cause for death.